Hello all, I present to you a bedtime story for millennials called If You Give a Millennial Mom a Slice of Cheese. Here it goes. If you give a millennial mom a slice of cheese, chances are she'll want a glass of wine to go with it. So you'll take her to the neighborhood liquor store. She'll insist on bringing her cloth shopping bag and a book for amateur sommeliers. When you're walking between the aisles looking for a bottle, any bottle, really, that is less than $10, you'll hear millennial moms squeal with delight at a display with everything you need to make cosmopolitans, also known as the drink of choice for that Sex and the City show that millennial mom's own mother would never let her watch. You'll have to buy vodka, lime juice, cranberry juice, and triple sec, and a set of those martini glasses that your 3-year-old will break within the week. $80 later, you and millennial mom will leave the liquor store for your book club because, well, naturally. When you arrive at book club, millennial mom will see that the book club host has a sourdough starter and she'll want one too. While you shake the vodka and lime juice and cranberry juice and triple sec, millennial mom will subscribe to the sourdough podcast. She'll start following bread masters on Instagram, and she'll take a selfie with a mason jar full of bubbling, pungent goo. Once the cosmos are ready, you and millennial mom and 3 to 5 youngish middle-aged women will each take a sip while discussing who is a Miranda and who is just a Charlotte who really wishes she was a Carrie, and who was a dirty Samantha before she got married. You'll have another cosmopolitan, and another. When millennial mom climbs on the coffee table and declares that the book was a depressing drudge of existential despair and you all need to live a little, you'll suspect she had a couple of extra cosmos as well. And where better to embrace life than a drag queen bar? You'll book an Uber and take one more gulp of that pink Sex and the City wonder juice as you and millennial mom, still gripping a mason jar of sourdough starter, stumble out to the car and head to the Red Rose Room Theater and Lounge. It'll be everything you always wanted a drag bar to be, with a waitress named Heidi Ho bringing you, I'm not even kidding, another Cosmo. When Dolly My Pardon comes out to sing 9 to 5, millennial mom will declare this is the best night of her life. You'll notice Dolly My Pardon has a striking resemblance to Bill from HR, and you'll slide behind your purse. You'll order another Cosmo. When millennial mom starts singing the Dolly Parton lines of Islands in the Stream in her sourdough mason jar microphone and holds the jar to you for all the Kenny Roger lines, you'll realize you should really get her home. After returning millennial mom to her bearded husband still sweaty from his Peloton, you'll go home, roll into bed, and pull up Facebook on your phone, only to find a post that includes a picture of you and millennial mom making pucker lips with a very tall woman with a beard. You'll rue the day you joined social media. The next 2 pictures will be screenshots of quiz results from which Sex and the City character are you? Millennial mom was Carrie. You were Miranda. Damn quizzes. A year later, millennial mom will see this post pop up in her memories on Facebook. She'll come over to reminisce over a glass of wine. And chances are, if you pour millennial mom a glass of wine, she'll probably want a slice of cheese to go with it. Good luck!
All right, here we go. This is a story, a bedtime story, a favorite bedtime story. You might be familiar with this genre of bedtime story, this type of bedtime story, but probably not this one. This one is entitled Millennial Mom, or if you give Millennial Mom some cheese. It goes something kind of like this. If you give a Millennial Mom a slice of cheese, chances are she's going to want some wine to go with that. Looking around and having no wine, you and Millennial Mom will go to the wine store or the local liquor store to get said wine. You'll be browsing through the aisles of the liquor store, while Millennial Mom has a introductory book to being a novice sommelier, and looking at all the options, but still trying to make sure that she finds the best wine under $10. As you and Millennial Mom search for this wine, chances are that Millennial Mom will decide, instead of wine, what she really needs is cosmopolitans. So she will go through and get the triple sec and cranberry juice and lemon juice and vodka, I think, are the things that are in a cosmopolitan, but I don't drink them often enough to know for sure. But let's go with that. You're going to get those things and, check out for $80, and then find yourself looking at your watch and realizing, hey, it's time for you and Millennial Mom to head to book club. Because, really, you should just because. Of course there's a book club. Why wouldn't there be a book club? You'll show up at this book club, and the book club will be wonderful to start out with. You get out all of the Cosmo stuff, and you and your book club start talking about which Sex and the City character you are as you drink said cosmopolitans. Are you a Samantha or other characters that are on Sex and the City, which I of course know, but I'm not going to spoil for you in case you haven't watched it. And there's a Carrie. Of course you knew that though. And then after a while, Millennial Mom, you kind of think she might have had too many Cosmos as she's dancing on the table. And you say, maybe we should go. But then Millennial Mom starts ranting about some existential crisis and how never has any fun in the world. And so naturally, you and Millennial Mom, before going home, have to go experience for the first time the local drag bar. There you will walk in and sit down as you are greeted by characters like Heidi Ho, and maybe you're brought yes of course, another cosmopolitan by Dolly My Pardon. And you enjoy yourself, and you listen to a man, woman, person singing 9 to 5 on stage, and you may have had a little bit much at this point too, so you're just going with the flow, but you're letting Millennial Mom do most of the drinking because you gotta drive, so you're not drinking too much. Safety first, obviously. After a while, when you at the point that Millennial Mom is singing Dolly Parton's "Islands in the Stream" into an empty, of course, cosmopolitan glass, and hands it to you, and you start singing the other person's lines, who is somebody, and at that point you're probably it's probably time to go home. So you eventually coax Millennial Mom into the car and drive her to drop her off with her husband, who's still sweaty from the Peloton that they have in their house. And then you drive home and you get in bed, ready for a good night's sleep, but of course, the thing that you're going to do before you go to bed is you're going to check social media. You look at Facebook, and sure enough, Millennial Mom has posted a nice picture of you and Millennial Mom puckering up, kissing in between the two of you, some woman with a giant beard. And you're like, social media. You rue the day that social media was invented. And then you go to sleep. And a year later, the stupid Facebook reminds Millennial Mom of this night of adventure. This one night that she had. And she looks at it and she says, "Oh, that was so much fun. It was the best night she ever had." And she says, "We should get together and have a glass of wine." And you know what goes with that wine? Some cheese. That's all she wrote.
Okay, here we go. So I'm going to tell you a bedtime story. This is similar to some of the bedtime stories you may have heard before, but with a twist. So the title of this bedtime story is Millennial Mom Gets Some Cheese. So if you give Millennial Mom some cheese, she may decide she wants some wine. And looking around the house, you find no wine. So Millennial Mom decides to go to the local liquor store. And while Millennial Mom is browsing the racks of the liquor store, looking for a $10 bottle of wine, she might ask for a novice sommelier book. And while looking through her novice sommelier book, she might decide that instead of a bottle of wine, she wants a Cosmopolitan. So you go through the store, and as getting all the things for Cosmopolitan, let's see, triple sec, I think goes in a Cosmopolitan, lemon juice, maybe vodka. Anyway, you get all those things and you go to the checkout, and you check out for $80. And you're on the way out the door, and Millennial Mom looks at her watch and notices that it is time for book club. So you head to the car, put all of your goodies in the car, and you head to book club. So while you're at book club, you pull out all of your goodies to share, and everyone has some Cosmopolitans. And you begin, if Millennial Mom has a couple of Cosmopolitans, then she begins to discuss all the typical things at book club, like not just the books, but, which Sex and the City character she is. And so after a couple Cosmopolitans, she might begin to dance on the table, and at that point you might decide that Millennial Mom has had enough and it's time to go home. So you coax her off the table, and as you're doing so, Millennial Mom starts to have an existential crisis over existential crisis. And in that process, Millennial Mom decides that she wants to go to the local bar. And so you decide to go ahead and take her and be the responsible person, and keep an eye on Millennial Mom. And at the local bar, you meet all kinds of characters. You might meet someone named Heidi Ho, and maybe you get, of course, another Cosmopolitan from a character named Dolly My Pardon. And after some, Millennial Mom gets up to sing. And she sings a song by Dolly Parton that I can't remember the name of, and Into Her Empty Cosmopolitan. And then she hands the mic to you. And it's at this point that you decide it is time to go. So you coax the Millennial Mom off of the stage to sing and drive her home to her husband, who's apparently sweaty, and go home yourself. And when you get home, you decide to unwind a little bit, and you get on social media, where you notice, specifically Facebook, but you notice that Millennial Mom has posted a picture of you and her puckering up to a woman with a beard, on either side, so cheek to cheek. And good old Facebook. And so you sigh and you put it away, and about a year later, Facebook, of course, reminds Millennial Mom of this night. And she decides, maybe we should get together again and get some wine. So Millennial Mom, and get some cheese. And Millennial Mom invites you over. And if, you give Millennial Mom some cheese, she might want some wine.
It's time for a bedtime story called If You Give a Millennial Mom Some Cheese. If you give a millennial mom some cheese, she'll probably want some wine to go with it. And looking through the house for some wine, she'll discover she doesn't have any, so she'll go to the liquor store. While at the liquor store, she'll buy a novice sommelier book. And while looking through the novice sommelier book, she'll realize she doesn't want wine, she wants a cosmopolitan. And so she'll buy all the ingredients for a cosmopolitan and pay for them and leave to walk out to her car. While walking to her car, she'll look at her watch and realize that it is in fact time for book club. So she'll go to book club, where she mixes and shares the cosmopolitan to all of her friends, who then, while drinking heavily, decide that they will talk about which Sex and the City character they are. And while talking about which Sex and the City character they are, they'll get even more wild and crazy, and they'll dance on tables. And while dancing on tables, they'll want you to dance on a table, but you don't want to do that. So you help them off the table. And while helping your friend off the table, the person you're helping off the table has an existential crisis. And having an existential crisis, they'll want to go to a bar. And because you're their friend, you will go to a bar with them to watch out for them. While at the bar, you meet a friendly face named Heidi Ho. And while talking to Heidi Ho, someone might give you a cosmopolitan. And that someone might be called Dolly My Pardon. And while talking to Dolly My Pardon, your friend will get up and sing a Dolly Parton song, at which point when she's done, she may pass you the microphone. And not wanting to sing, you might realize that it's time to leave the bar. So you and your friend leave the bar and you drop them back home to her sweaty husband. Don't know why he's sweaty, but he is. And so you go back to your house. And when you get to your house, you get on social media. Maybe your husband's the sweaty one. And maybe that's why you're on social media and not going to bed. Someone's very sweaty. That's the detail I remember. And so you're on social media. And While Millennial Mom looks at social media, she sees that her friend has posted a picture of herself and Millennial Mom puckering up to a bearded woman, who I can only assume is Dolly My Pardon. A year goes by, and Facebook sends you a reminder memory picture of puckering up to the bearded guy. And for some reason that is beyond me, this may make Millennial Mom crave cheese. And if you give Millennial Mom cheese, she may want wine to go with it. Yeah.
Today I'm going to tell you a bedtime story about Millennial Mom. If you give Millennial Mom cheese, she might want some wine. And realizing she wants wine with her cheese, she goes searching the house for her wine, but realizes that she doesn't have any wine because apparently she hasn't hit the point where she stockpiles the stuff. So she must go to the liquor store. Not sure why it's a liquor store and not just the grocery store, but hey, we're going with it. So she heads to the liquor store. She walks around the liquor store and realizes she doesn't actually want wine. She's really more feeling the Cosmopolitan. So she gets all the ingredients for a Cosmopolitan, and as she's heading out of the liquor store, she looks at her watch and realizes that it's time for book club. I'm not quite sure where her kids are at this point, but she heads off to book club, and being the friend that she is, she shares her Cosmopolitans with all of her book club friends, and all of her book club friends get slightly schnockered and decide that it's going to be a fun thing to dance on tables. So they're all having fun at book club, apparently not reading books, and dancing on tables. But Millennial Mom, being the responsible one, because, moms always have to be responsible, decides to help her friend off of the table so she doesn't hurt herself. And in the process of this, I'm not quite sure how long it took, but apparently in the process of this, her friend has an existential crisis and decides that she must go to a bar. Not quite sure what existential crisis causes a bar visit, but it must have been big. So Millennial Mom, being the responsible one, naturally, takes her friend, because she is a friend, to a bar. They come into this bar, and they meet a new friend. And this new friend's name is Heidi Ho, which has all kinds of connotations. And her friend, who apparently didn't drink enough before, is now drinking again. And then Millennial Mom meets a new person named Dolly My Pardon, and her friend decides to go up to karaoke and sing a Dolly Parton song. And when she's done, she decides Millennial Mom should sing one too, and Millennial Mom's like, maybe not, and decides that it's now time to leave. So she gathers up her friend and they head out of the bar, and she drives her friend home to her husband and drops her off, and then Millennial Mom heads back to her house and back to her home with her sweaty husband, which is why she goes on Facebook as opposed to cuddling with him. I'm not quite sure what's wrong with him, but maybe he was working out. And so Millennial Mom is on Facebook and sees that her friend, who she'd been out with, posted on Facebook this fantastic picture, of her, Millennial Mom, and her friend, smooshy face kissing up to a woman with a beard. So a bearded woman, who must have been Dolly My Pardon. And so it's Facebook, it just goes up there. But a year later, she realized she is on Facebook again, because that's what we do in our spare time, and she sees a memory pop up. Sometimes they're wonderful, sometimes they're not. And this time it is this memory of her and her friend at a bar with a bearded lady named Dolly My Pardon. And this may or may not have caused her to want cheese. And with her cheese, she wants wine.
Okay, so I just watched the video of the bedtime story that I'm about to retell to you, as if I'm telling it to you for the first time. And I just have to put this disclaimer there, that I feel like poor millennial mom has gotten a bad rap. And there might be some political undertones of this story that I don't necessarily agree with. And I might be a little offended, but I'm gonna tell the story anyway. And then maybe I'll drink some wine. Okay. Your bedtime story for this evening. Once upon a time, there was a mom. Her name was Millennial Mom. And it was before bedtime. She was a little snacky. So she decided she was going to eat some cheese so that she would not be hungry while she was in bed, because we all know that makes you not sleepy. And she went to the kitchen, she got her cheese. And you know what goes really well with cheese? Wine. So she decided she's going to have some wine with her cheese. But when she went to the cabinet, there was no wine. So she had to go to the liquor store. And she showed up at the liquor store, and they had plenty of wine, but good end caps and marketing being what it is, she walked out with the stuff to make Cosmos instead. And you can't drink Cosmos alone. So she was thinking, what should I do? I need somebody to drink my Cosmos with. And then her phone alerted her with a reminder from our cylindrical friend that said, don't forget book club at 9:30. And she was like, score, friends to drink wine with. Cosmos. And so she takes her Cosmo fixings to book club and shares her Cosmos with all her little friends, and they decide that they are just gonna really get schnockered with those Cosmos. Like, it was like 2 full pitchers, and they were like lightweights, and no book reading happened and no book discussion happened, and all of a sudden they were dancing on the tables, and it was just a wild and crazy party. And Millennial Mom is like, this seems like a bad idea. Drunk people on tables are not good with balance. And because she's a mom and because she's responsible, even when she's drunk, because that's what moms do, she decides to help her friend get off the table before she falls. So in the middle of helping this friend get off the table, the friend has an existential crisis and decides that she needs to go to a bar. And I don't understand this step at all, unless maybe the bar is a bar church. That's a thing. Sure. So we'll go with that. She needed to go talk to her priest at the bar church. And Millennial Mom is like, yeah, sure, that's a great idea after 9:30 on a school night. So she piles her friend into her car, and they head off to the bar church. And at the bar church, they're greeted by 2 new friends, Heidi Ho and Dolly My Pardon, who may be a cross-dresser? Not sure. But at the bar church, apparently they are singing as part of their service. And they all get up there, Millennial Mom and her friend from book club and Dolly My Pardon and Heidi Ho, and they're singing a Dolly Parton song, karaoke, on the stage. And they get done with their song, and her friend is done with their existential crisis, and they're all like, man, it's really late, and it's still a school night, and we should really go home because, we're not making good choices. So Millennial Mom piles her friend back in the car. It's probably a minivan. I bet it's a minivan. And she drops her off, gift wraps her, and delivers her to her husband so she's his problem, and goes home to her own husband. But when she gets home, he's really sweaty and stinky, and she doesn't want to be anywhere near him. So, which is a valid choice. So she gets on Facebook which is not a valid choice because you should never Facebook after you've been drinking. And what does she discover except that her friend with the existential crisis had also been Facebook drinking and drunk Facebooking. That's better. And she posted a picture of Millennial Mom and herself, both smooshy face kissing a bearded lady who she thinks is Dolly My Pardon, but the picture is not great, and the lighting in the bar church was not good, and she decides that all is a loss, and that she really just needs to go to sleep because nothing good happens after 2 a.m. And that is the end of that day. But then, 1 year later, she's Facebooking again because she has learned nothing in the last year. And she sees her Facebook timeline memory of her smooshy face kissing the bearded lady. And she starts to feel kind of hungry. And, you know, when you're hungry, the best thing to make that hunger go away right before bedtime, because it's always right before bedtime that you're Facebooking and making bad choices, is cheese. So she decides she wants some cheese. She goes down to the kitchen and she's gonna have cheese. And chances are she's gonna need some wine to go with it. The end.
Okay, I thought I was going to be able to do two things at once, and now that I've begun, I really kind of doubt it. I feel like this story was made specifically for a certain style of storytelling, and that storytelling is if you give a millennial mom some cheese, she's going to want some wine to go with it, etc. But either that is something that grew into the story, or I didn't get enough of the story for that to really make a lot of sense. So I'm going to abandon that now. Also, I have some questions as to why this character needed to be a millennial at all. It has been mentioned already that there may be some sort of commentary here that didn't perhaps make it all the way to me, and that's a distinct possibility, but here's the way the story goes. Here's the plot of the story. This character, who is apparently both a millennial and a mother, was hungry at nighttime. It's bedtime, time for a little snack, some cheese, the obvious answer. And what goes best with cheese? That's correct, Ritz crackers, but in the story, it's wine. And unfortunately, when she got there, the cupboard was bare, and so she had to go to the liquor store. At which point, she kind of saw what they had available and decided that maybe not wine, maybe some Cosmos. So she went home with all of her basket of goodies for making Cosmos. And of course, if you're going to drink Cosmos, you got to have friends. And luckily for her, as her mobile device reminded her, it's book club night, so it's a party. And in fact, it was such a party that no books are read, no books are discussed. We're just having a different kind of good time. And, the floor is not the greatest place for dancing. There are tables available as well. And so things get a little bit out of hand. And this begins to bother the millennial mom character, who, realizes it's a school night. And it was already bedtime when this story began. So, come to think of it, I'm just now realizing she decided to go to bed, maybe an hour before her book club was scheduled to start. So I may have missed something here. Anyway, I forgot. I feel like I've forgotten a very important part that goes here, because what happens is that they meaning this millennial mom character, and one of her friends, who is very central to the story, but did not have a name when I heard the story. They end up at a bar. It was mentioned to me that this may have been a bar church. There was some confusion about that. I'm going to leave that part out because it does not become relevant at any point later. So they end up carrying on some other frivolities, and they meet two people at this bar. The main character of the story does not have a name. One of her best friends in the book club does not have a name, but these two people have names. One of them is Heidi Ho. Apparently Heidi would be the first name. And the other one is Dolly My Pardon, or Dolly My Pardon, whichever it is. It's clearly a play on famous singer Dolly Parton. Different than the Sesame Street character, also a play on Dolly Parton, named Polly Darton. They end up singing some karaoke, some Dolly Parton karaoke, and eventually the night gets to the point where, once again, the main character of the story, the millennial mom, decides that after hours on a school night is not the time for this. So they go home, and the main character, now finished with her day and then some, decides to go on Facebook, which is perhaps not a good idea late in the night or while you've been drinking a lot. And she learned this lesson through the example of her unnamed friend who had also been drunk Facebooking and who had posted a photo of their frivolities at the bar with this bearded person, probably Dolly My Pardon. It was unclear in the story whether they knew who it was. I certainly can't tell you for certain, but a bearded person who they were both smooshy-faced kissing. This was the phrase that was handed to me, smooshy-faced kissing. So that's the end of the story, but there is an epilogue. The epilogue is that a year later, Facebook, of course, on this day, reminds the main character, the millennial mom character, of this event. And when she remembers the, frivolity of that night, she decides she's a little bit hungry. And of course, when you're hungry, nothing was better than cheese. And if you give a millennial mom some cheese, she's going to want some wine to go with it. That's the story. Numeroff is the name of the person who either wrote or illustrated the book about the mouse. That's all I got.
Once upon a time, there was a millennial mother. We don't know why she's a millennial. We don't know why she has to be a mother in this case, but it just so happens in the story that she's both. And she was getting ready for a book club meeting that was going to take place at her house. And she didn't want to be cranky or hangry for this. And so she went for that tried and true snack of all good millennial mothers, cheese. And it's not enough just to have cheese. You have to have the best partner cheese could ever have. She didn't want crackers because sometimes, so that may be like a racist term. And so she decided instead to go with a nice Portuguese Madeira. But alas, when she went to her cupboard, she found that she had none. She hopped down to her local bar and purchased a bottle and brought it back home where she and her book club friends could enjoy it. Now, this was a phenomenal book club meeting at which Bacchus's wine flowed freely and not a book was read or discussed. And as is prone to happen with Madeira, it wasn't long before they decided that they needed to start dancing. And as these millennial moms collectively started dancing, they couldn't dance on the floor. No. The table made a much better stage. Now, the millennial mom who was hosting this party felt that on a school night with her children already in bed, maybe Madeira wine and dancing on her tables was not the right time, place, or activity. So she took her friends to a bar. Now, this is no ordinary bar. It was most likely located at 541 China Street because this is a bar church. And upon entering this bar church, they had no more need of drinking Madeira because the bar church had a much better storeroom. They were able to switch to cosmopolitans. And as the cosmopolitans filled their tummies and the stories flowed forth, regaling tales of all the harrowing adventures of yesteryear, these millennial moms found themselves enjoying the friendship of each other and the local barmaids. the millennial mother found herself particularly enjoying the friendship of one Heidi Ho and Dolly My Partner. Also, the friendship of a bearded, mysterious stranger with whom she found herself smooshy-faced kissing later in the evening. Now, as we all know, you can't just go to a bar and drink cosmopolitans and not run a sociological experiment. And all sociological experiments need documentation. And so this millennial mob, being the good scientist and sociologist that she is, decided to document the night's frivolities and her adventures and all of the social situations of her friends on Facebook with video and pictures. She documented the stories they told, she documented the new friends they met, and she documented herself smooshy-face kissing with the mysterious bearded stranger. Now, they all go home eventually and wake up the next day, go through Facebook, cringing at their wonderful grammar skills in their cosmopolitan-induced state, and also noticing some of the similarities that they share with each other. They all generally have the same hairstyle. All of the book club members make the same silly duck face when they go to take their picture, and all of the people were at the same bar. All of the book club members went to the same bar. But it's not often that you find that more than one book club member was smooshy-faced kissing with the same mysterious bearded stranger. They had words about this and decided that it was probably best to blame the mysterious bearded stranger for being a low-down, dirty, sneaking, conniving, cheating scum that he was. And they went on their way, eagerly awaiting the next book club meeting and forgetting the mysterious bearded stranger. Until a year later, when Facebook dutifully reminded them of the fun-filled evening that they had with their cheese and Madeira and cosmopolitans, with Dolly My Partner, and with Heidi Ho and the mysterious bearded-faced stranger, and all of the fun times that they had before. And that made the millennial mom hungry for some cheese. And what goes better with cheese than a bottle of Madeira?
Okay, once upon a time, there was a millennial mom. And we don't know why she was a millennial, we don't really know why she was a mother, but for this story, that's what she was. And she was hungry, she wanted a snack. And so she had some cheese, and it was very good cheese. And what goes better with cheese than a Portuguese Madeira wine? So she went to her fridge to try and find some, and she couldn't find any. But she was having a book club that night, and so she said, well, I need to run to the store and get some. So she went to the local bar, and she got hers, and she came back and got everything ready in time for the book club. And all of these moms are sitting around, and they're doing the typical phenomenal book club that you do, which is reading absolutely no books, but drinking lots of wine and eating lots of cheese. And after a copious consumption of the wine, they decided that it was time for dancing, because what better way to spend the evening? But unfortunately, the floor did not make a great dancing surface. Instead, the table made a much better surface for dancing. So they decided to dance on the tables. But being a good mom, and with her children in bed already, the host decided that she didn't want this happening all at her house. So she packed up all of her friends, and they went down to the local bar, which must have been at 541 China Street, because this was a bar church. I don't know why. But they had a much better selection and much better stock room than the lady at home. So they got rid of the Madeira wine and started drinking cosmopolitans. Lots of cosmopolitans. And because of this, they all got a little bit tipsy and, started dancing around and doing things. And at one point, the millennial mom found herself smooching with a very mysterious bearded man. And because the way of life is to go to bars and do sociological experiments. Obviously, she had to keep track of this. And she had to document it, of course, because what better way, whenever you're doing an experiment, you have to document things so that you can reproduce it, right? Or at least verify your findings. So she started taking pictures and videos on Facebook, like you do. And all of these moms were out there having a great time and not remembering all these things. And there were some Heidi Ho's and some Hello Dolly Partons that were there. Or Oh Hello Dollies that joined them, along with the mysterious bearded man. And so they have their fun-filled evening, and the next morning they all wake up and start scrolling through Facebook and going, oh my god, what did we do last night? And they're all going through and seeing their grammatically amazing statements that were introduced by cosmopolitans. And they're scrolling through and noticing that they're all very, very similar. They all have the same haircut, and they all make the same duck face whenever they take a selfie. And more than one of them was smooching with the mysterious bearded man. And they thought this was strange and not good, because why would they do that? They wouldn't do that. Surely it was the mysterious bearded man and his horrible, no good, very bad, sexist, racist attitude that made him cheat and smooch with multiple women. He probably had a wife at home too that he wasn't telling any of them about. And they went on with their lives and chalked it up to that. And everything was fine until a year later, when they were scrolling through their Facebook feed again, and they saw the mysterious bearded man again. And I really wish I knew who the mysterious bearded man was, because it seems like at the end of the story, you should tell us that. But we don't. So, that's it. The end.
All right. So I am here to tell you about a millennial mom. And I'm assuming she's a millennial mom because of something to do with the range of years in which she could have possibly been birthed. I think that's where, anyway. So there's this millennial mom, and she is getting ready for a gathering at her home with cheese and a very specific type of wine. Yeah, that part's gone. So, so she was out of the wine that she wanted for this gathering. And so she had to go to the store and get some. And this gathering that she was preparing for was a book club, which, as we all know, includes a lot less books and a lot more drinking wine than books, which sounds like a plan to me. So she went and got the wine and had it at her house and had all her friends at the house, and they were having the best time. They were enjoying themselves so thoroughly, and the wine was great, and they were having so much fun. They were like, you know what we want to do? We want to dance. And the only surface available for dancing was the table, because no other surface would do, which, sure, okay, table dancing sounds fun, but she decided, oh, this would be bad for the kids. So she left the house, and this sounds like a judgment made after drinking a significant amount of wine. Oh, table dancing bad, leaving my kids alone good. So anyway, so she and all of her friends went down to this local church bar that apparently is on China Street. And I don't know why it's important that it's a church bar. Because I'm not entirely sure how that would work, because it seems like I've heard of them holding churches, like holding church in bars, but it seems like if it was like a combo church bar, like that would feel like hit some people a little weird, just because they're like, I don't want to go to a bar and then have people looking at me all the time, having feelings about what I'm doing, because most people assume that if you go to church, you're judgy, and they're probably not wrong. So I digress. And so they're at this bar, and they move from drinking wine to drinking cosmopolitans, and that's when things really get fun. So they are dancing, and there's other people there, some Hello Dolly somethings. So some other people show up, and they are having a great time, and the hostess even finds herself like smooching with this mysterious bearded man, who his mystery is only exceeded. Never mind. So this mysterious bearded man, and she decides to form some kind of a social experiment of all of this. So she starts recording everything that's happening, because of course you have to record everything in a social experiment so that you could repeat the experiment. Not that repetition of the experiment ever comes into it. So I'm not really sure how she was going to verify her results, but that's a different point. So this bearded man apparently was taking advantage of the free-flowing cosmopolitans and was smooching with all of the ladies. All of them. Which... So, the next day, all these women get home and they look at their Facebook and they're like, we all look the same, and we're all making the same duck face, and duck face, and we are all making out with the same guy, and we all said the same inane things, and nobody knew who the guy was, and then a year later it came up on their memories, because Facebook likes to haunt you and stalk you, and they all were still wondering, who's this guy? What's he doing? Why is he making out with all of us? And for some reason, he probably has a wife at home, which I'm like, well, that's a little, you were assuming a lot there, I don't know. And that's where it ended. So now we know even less than we started with, because we could go so many directions with this. Crazy bearded man, everybody, having a great time, children home by themselves, we just paused the movie in the middle, and that's where it's